The girl has blinded you.
The year is 1944. War rages across the globe, but in the heart of Montana, another battle is brewing. Spencer Dutton, a man scarred by tragedy and forged in violence, returns to a homeland he barely recognizes. The losses he's endured have hardened him, but they've also left him with a heavy burden, protecting the Dutton name, raising the next generation, and defending the land that has soaked in both his family's blood and pride. But Montana is changing fast. Greedy hands reach for what isn't theirs. New enemies rise, not just from the outside, but from within. The old ways are fading, and whispers of betrayal echo through the valleys. As secrets buried deep within the Dutton ranch begin to surface, Spencer realizes that this is no longer a fight for survival. This is a war for the very soul of the Dutton legacy. What comes next will test every bond, every belief, and every ounce of strength this family has left. Because in 1944, the Duttons aren't just facing enemies. They're facing the end of an era and the beginning of something far more dangerous. Spencer Dutton, now a seasoned survivor, has stepped into a role that once seemed impossible. The weight of the Dutton ranch is now firmly on his shoulders, and with it, the burden of leadership. But leadership is a dangerous game, especially when the lines between friend and foe are as blurred as they are in Montana. Spencer, a man hardened by loss and battle, isn't the same naive rancher he once was. He's a force to be reckoned with, a man who knows that every decision, every move, could be his last. The tension between Spencer Dutton and his sons simmers like a storm, just beyond the mountain's quiet, but ready to explode. They are no longer boys clinging to their father's wisdom. They're young men with fire in their hearts and questions on their minds. They've grown up in the shadow of Spencer's legacy, shaped by the harsh land and even harsher expectations, but as the world changes, so do they. And now, their dreams, their values, and their visions for the future don't always align with the man who raised them. What once united them, blood, land, and legacy, is now at risk of tearing them apart. The Dutton name still commands respect, but its weight is becoming a burden the younger generation isn't sure they want to carry. Some still cling to the ranch and everything it stands for. Others look beyond the fence line, toward a world that's moving faster than Montana's wide skies can contain. The question hangs in the air like smoke after a fire. Do they fight to preserve their father's way of life, or do they burn it down to build something new? As internal conflicts grow, external threats close in like vultures circling a wounded beast. Rumors spread of land developers eyeing the Dutton ranch, lured by profit and power, backed by corporations with no respect for the blood spilled to protect that land. These aren't just businessmen. They're predators, calculating and ruthless, armed with contracts instead of guns, but just as deadly. What they want isn't just property, it's dominion. And to take it, they're willing to destroy everything the Duttons have spent generations building. And then there's the war. The World War I may be drawing to a close overseas, its echoes still thunder through Spencer's soul. He's returned home, a changed man, his body bearing the scars of battle, his mind haunted by the violence he's seen. His leadership is shaped by loss, by sacrifice, by a brutal understanding of what it means to fight for something that can't be replaced. But his sons? They didn't see the war. They only see the aftermath. And they question whether the cost of holding on to the past is worth the pain it brings. Each day, Spencer is forced to confront an agonizing reality. The land he fought so hard to return to is slipping from his grasp, not just from outside threats, but from within his own bloodline. His sons are pulling away, forging their own paths, building dreams that may never fit within the borders of the ranch. He wants to protect them from the world, from pain, from the weight of the Dutton name. But how do you shield someone from a legacy they never asked to inherit? And as Spencer grapples with these impossible choices, a storm brews in the distance. New enemies hidden, organized, and merciless plot in the shadows. They are not content with stealing land. They want to erase the Duttons entirely. Spencer has faced war zones and foreign battlefields, but what's coming now is different. This time, the war is at his doorstep. This time, the casualties will be personal. The walls are closing in. The clock is ticking. And Spencer must decide, what will he sacrifice to protect his family? How far will he go to keep the Dutton name alive? Meanwhile, his sons are beginning to rise, each with their own vision, their own scars, their own fire. The next generation is no longer waiting in the wings, they are stepping into the arena. But unity is not guaranteed. And as they wrestle with identity, purpose, and loyalty, the question looms large. Will they carry forward the Dutton legacy or bury it once and for all? In a world where loyalty is tested, blood is not always thicker than ambition. And as the fight for the Dutton future begins, only one thing is certain: the battle for this land and this family is far from over. Only time will tell. As the season progresses, secrets that have been buried for years begin to surface. Old grudges return, alliances are tested, and new enemies emerge from the shadows. Spencer Dutton and his sons may have survived the horrors of war, but they'll need to fight the battle of their lives to survive what's coming next. The Dutton legacy is under threat like never before, and this time, the stakes are personal. The fate of the Dutton family, and the land they hold dear, rests on the shoulders of Spencer and his sons. In 1944, it's not just about surviving. It's about winning. And as the trailer promises, this will be a battle that leaves no one unscathed. Will Spencer Dutton rise to the challenge, or will he and his sons be the last to stand in a family history written in blood and sacrifice? The answer, as always, is just one decision away, and that decision could change everything. The simmering tensions within the Dutton family are about to boil over. As Spencer Dutton takes the reins, the weight of leadership begins to take its toll. His relationship with his sons has always been complicated, but now it's on the verge of crumbling. The land, the legacy, and the Dutton name have always been at the center of their world. But as time moves on, that world is rapidly changing. The Duttons' grip on the ranch is slipping, and each of Spencer's sons seems to have different ideas on how to move forward. The oldest son, Ethan, is the most like Spencer in many ways. He's strong-willed, dedicated, and shares his father's love for the ranch. But the younger generation has grown up in a world far removed from the harsh realities of their ancestors. Ethan, though loyal to his father, is beginning to question the values that have been passed down to him. As the ranch faces more external pressure, he finds himself torn between staying and defending his family's land and pursuing opportunities beyond the ranch. His desire for independence is growing, and it threatens everything to drive a wedge between him and Spencer. But the land they fought so hard to protect isn't something Spencer is willing to give up so easily. The question is, how far will Spencer go to keep his family together? Meanwhile, Spencer's younger son, Isaac, is a different kind of man. While Ethan embodies his father's ideals, Isaac has always been the more restless one. He's never felt fully at home in the world of cattle and ranching. Isaac has always dreamed of a life beyond the boundaries of Dutton land, and as the world enters a new era, he's becoming more determined to forge his own path. But Spencer is not the type to let his son walk away so easily. He's already lost too much, and the thought of losing another piece of his family, especially one of his sons, is something he can't bear. The struggle between father and son reaches a boiling point, with each trying to prove their own version of what it means to be a Dutton. As tensions within the family rise, so does the pressure from the outside world. The land developers are no longer just a distant threat, they're here, and they're hungry for what the Duttons have built. They're working with influential people in Montana, people who have no interest in the history of the land or the family that has fought to protect it. They see it as nothing more than a commodity, something to be sold off to the highest bidder. But Spencer isn't the kind of man to bow down to anyone, especially not to people who want to erase his family's legacy. The battle for the ranch becomes not just about land, but about identity. For Spencer, the Dutton name means everything. It's his blood, his history, and his responsibility to protect. He knows that if he loses the ranch, he loses everything. The ranch is the foundation of the family, and without it, the Duttons cease to exist. But even as he fights to hold on, he knows that his own legacy is slipping through his fingers. And then, there's the growing storm closer to home, the one no one expected. While the developers circle like vultures and corporate wolves wait to strike, the real threat may be far more personal. The local community, once bound by loyalty, tradition, and shared hardship, is beginning to fracture. Neighbors who once lent each other tools and toasted to harvests now speak in hushed tones. Resentment brews. Old rivalries resurface like ghosts clawing out of the earth. Whispers fill the taverns and general stores. The Dutton Ranch, with its sprawling acres and deep-rooted legacy, has become a symbol of power, and in a changing world, power invites enemies. It's not just outsiders anymore. It's people Spencer once called friends. The Duttons' every move is under a microscope, watched, judged, and twisted into rumor. Where once there was camaraderie, now there's only suspicion. Spencer is no stranger to conflict, but this betrayal stings differently. It comes from people who knew his father, who helped build the fences, who stood beside him through winters and funerals. But now, their smiles are laced with venom. As the pressure mounts, Spencer finds himself fighting a different kind of war. His fists and fire once kept enemies at bay, but now he must navigate politics, whispers, and manipulation. The battlefield has changed. This war is waged in courtrooms, in county meetings, behind closed doors, and every wrong move brings the Dutton name closer to ruin. Yet, even as these outside threats close in, the greatest challenge may lie within the walls of his own home. The bond between Spencer and his sons is splintering under the weight of legacy and expectation. Ethan, the eldest, is burdened by duty. He sees the empire crumbling and tries to carry it on his shoulders. But leadership brings enemies, and one betrayal from within the community nearly costs him everything. It's a sobering lesson. The Dutton name may be powerful, but it also paints a target on your back. Meanwhile, Isaac grows restless. The youngest Dutton, brilliant and headstrong, wants no part of this inherited battle. A fiery argument with Spencer pushes him over the edge, and one day he's simply gone, leaving behind only a letter and a silence that cuts deeper than any wound. His trail leads into a different world, one filled with people who believe the Duttons are the problem, not the solution. Drawn into a radical movement that preaches revolution over tradition, Isaac finds himself weaponized against everything his family stands for. Back on the ranch, Spencer is left with questions that haunt him more than any war ever did. What did I do wrong? Can I save my sons from each other? From themselves? From me? And just as he begins to lose his grip, the past comes crashing through the gates. A woman appears older now, weathered by time and grief. She doesn't want land. She doesn't want revenge. She wants closure. She claims to know secrets about the Duttons that no one else does. Her arrival sends shockwaves through the family, especially when it's revealed she may be connected to Spencer's long-buried past and the boy's mysterious mother. Spencer, who has spent years protecting his sons from the truth, now finds that the past refuses to stay buried. Rumors swirl about the woman he once loved. Was she a war widow? A stranger from across the ocean? Or someone from his life before the ranch, before the war, before the Dutton name consumed him? Her presence cracks open old wounds, forcing Spencer to confront the most painful chapter of his life and the choices that changed everything. While Spencer wrestles with ghosts, the attacks on the ranch become more personal, more vicious. Lawsuits, forged deeds, silent buyouts. And then, something worse, a fire. A blaze rips through the cattle barns, destroying generations of work. No lives lost, but a message delivered loud and clear. In the ashes, investigators find a strange symbol burned into the dirt, a symbol Spencer hasn't seen since the war in Africa. It's a cruel, cryptic warning. This war is global. This enemy is watching. And they've only just begun. The Duttons are outnumbered, outgunned, and divided. And yet, Spencer knows one thing. They are not broken. Not yet. But the cost of unity may be steep. He must bring his sons back before it's too late. Before Isaac becomes a weapon against them. Before Ethan is swallowed by bitterness and revenge. Before the family loses everything. With the land under siege, their legacy on the line, and shadows from the past creeping closer, the Duttons are no longer just fighting for survival. They're fighting for who they are, for who they will become, for whether the Dutton name means anything at all in a world that wants to erase it. And in Season 3 of 1923, one truth becomes painfully clear. The land is the battlefield, but the war is for the soul of the family. But if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that Duttons don't go down without a fight. With every attack, every betrayal, every crack in the family, Spencer begins to remember who he used to be, the man who survived war, the man who fought tooth and nail for the woman he loved, the man who swore to protect his family at all costs. That man is coming back. And this time, he's not just defending a ranch, he's defending everything he has left. At the same time, we start to see flashbacks, pieces of Spencer's past that have never been shown before. His time with Alex, their happiest moments, their hardest trials, her final days. And it all paints a portrait of a man who's lost more than most could bear. These glimpses into Spencer's memory don't just add depth, they reveal motives. Every decision, every rule, every warning he's ever given his sons stems from one simple truth. He's terrified of losing again. Season 3 isn't just building toward a battle. It's building toward a reckoning. Every member of the Dutton family must decide who they are, what they stand for, and how far they're willing to go to protect what's theirs. The ranch is no longer just land. It's a symbol of survival, of sacrifice, of blood spilled across generations. But survival comes at a cost. And as Spencer begins to realize, some prices may be too high even for a Dutton. By the end of this section, it's clear there's no turning back. Spencer and his sons are on a path that will define not just their legacy, but their very souls. A collision course with destiny, and not everyone will make it out alive. As 1923 Season 3 storms into its second half, the pace shifts from emotional tension to full-blown suspense. The Duttons are now at war on all fronts. Internally, the family is fractured. Externally, enemies close in with tactics more ruthless than ever before. Every move Spencer makes is watched, every word twisted, and every ally a potential traitor. This isn't just a story about a family defending a ranch. This is a story about legacy under siege. Spencer Dutton is pushed to his limits. For decades, he's lived under the weight of grief, first Alex, then the war, and now the growing distance from his sons. But in this season, we see a version of Spencer we've never seen before, sharper, colder, strategic. Gone is the man who hoped to preserve peace. What remains is the man who has nothing left to lose. And when a Dutton reaches that point, it means someone is about to pay the price. The land developers aren't playing games anymore. After the fire, they double down, targeting the ranch's water rights and filing false claims to block the Duttons from using their own land. Legal attacks come like waves, backed by judges and officials who've long since been bought. The Duttons are being choked out without a single bullet fired. But Spencer isn't fighting alone anymore. He calls on old war contacts, allies from Africa and Europe, men who owe him favors, men who know how to operate in the gray. We're introduced to one of those men in a quiet but chilling scene, a former intelligence officer now hiding in the mountains of Montana under a new name. He brings more than just knowledge of war. He brings secrets. One of those secrets ties back to the mysterious group funding the land grabs. They're not just businessmen, they're part of a larger network, an early post-war syndicate trying to reshape the American West, piece by piece. And the Dutton land is the last piece they need. While Spencer begins to unravel the bigger conspiracy, back at the ranch, Ethan finds himself stepping up in ways he never expected. With his father away handling the legal war, Ethan is left to manage day-to-day operations, cattle drives, security, and now the family's safety. It's the first time he truly feels the weight his father has carried all these years. And it's also the first time he understands why Spencer is so unyielding. But that understanding comes too late. Isaac returns, but not the way the family hoped. He's changed, more hardened, more distant, with a new fire in his eyes. At first, the family welcomes him home, relieved to see him safe. But it soon becomes clear he's not the same. Isaac has seen too much. And worse, he's brought danger with him. The group he ran with before returning isn't done with him. And now, their fight becomes the Duttons' fight. One night, under the cover of darkness, intruders breach the ranch perimeter. What begins as sabotage quickly turns into violence. Fences are cut. Livestock is poisoned. And one of the ranch hands loyal since Jacob Dutton's time is found murdered. It's the first death on Dutton land in years, and it's personal. Spencer returns home to the sight of blood on the soil and fury in his eyes. This isn't business anymore, it's vengeance. The murder sets off a chain reaction. Spencer goes into isolation, returning to the quiet places of the ranch where he and Alex once dreamed of peace. But it's there, in the silence, that he rediscovers his purpose not just as a rancher, but as a protector. He calls a meeting with his sons. And in a rare moment of emotional clarity, he lays everything out: the past, the truths, the enemies, the future. He asks one question: are you ready to fight for this land? Not just with your hands, but with your hearts? For the first time in the season, Ethan and Isaac stand beside their father. Different as they are, divided as they've been. They know this land is worth protecting, not just for themselves, but for the generations who came before. And in that moment, the Duttons are united. But unity doesn't mean safety. The group opposing them, the syndicate, isn't going to back down. They're planning something big, something public, something that could destroy the Dutton name forever. Word spreads, a hearing is coming. A federal inquiry into the ranch's land claims, livestock practices, and water usage. But this isn't about legality. It's a setup. A final move to discredit the Duttons in front of the entire state and seize the land once and for all. Spencer knows it. And he's not going to let it happen. He digs through decades of documents, old land surveys, even Jacob Dutton's journals. Somewhere in the past is the key to protecting the future. He finds an old deed signed, witnessed, and sealed granting the Duttons ownership under a forgotten federal land trust. If Spencer can prove it's real, the syndicate's entire case falls apart. But there's a catch. The only witness, an old friend of Jacob Dutton, has been presumed dead for years. His last known trace leads to a reservation deep in northern Wyoming. Spencer takes it upon himself to find him, knowing full well it could be a wild goose chase or a carefully laid trap. Back home, Ethan and Isaac are left to hold the line. With Spencer gone, the pressure mounts. The ranch is on edge, the stakes higher than ever. This time, they either step up or everything falls apart. Spencer rides toward the unknown. The ranch prepares for war. Armed guards. Locked gates. A town split down the middle. The hearing looms just days away. If they win, the land remains theirs. If they lose, it's the end. No more Dutton Ranch. No more legacy. Just a story fading into dust. Share your thoughts in comment section and subscribe my channel for more 1923 updates.